Hello everybody and welcome to part 8 of my Fire Emblem 6 chapter guide. Today we're going to be looking at chapter 8 of Fire Emblem 6, of course. Now, I'm just going to mention this right off the bat. I am an idiot. I recorded the chapter in the same way that I did last time, where I was giving my own audio as it was going, and I had my mic muted. So this is going to be a little awkward. It's not going to be quite as in sync as I would hope, but hopefully we can work through the kinks and talk about chapter 8. So chapter 8, of course, is a pretty darn straightforward chapter. A lot easier than chapter 7. As you can see, we're going through the map at the moment. It's really like on rails. You basically just go up and then to the left and then down to there. There's some reinforcements that are going to come, but there's not too much going on with this chapter. There are a few new characters we're going to be getting, but it's pretty straightforward as far as the actual chapter is concerned. So as far as characters you want to bring, it appears as though you want a thief, and bringing a thief can be useful, but we are going to be getting a thief in a stall. So bringing Chad isn't necessary here, but it can be kind of nice to have two thieves. We don't need any specific characters for recruitment or anything, so don't worry about that. We're going to be getting two new characters here, and that is Astal and Lena. So first we'll talk about Astal. He's our second of three thieves we're going to be getting. Astal's great. He's definitely the best thief in the game. His stats are actually pretty strong. He can actually offer you some combat. Not that that's super important because he cannot promote. None of the thieves can. But he's just got much better combat than Chad and Kath, who's the late thief that we're going to be recruiting. As you can see, his health and defense are actually pretty solid, and his speed is really good too, so he can offer you that combat. There are going to be some opportunities later where using two thieves is actually pretty darn useful, so a store can offer you that. But yeah, he's a pretty good unit. As I said, the audio for this chapter is going to be slightly out of sync because obviously when I recorded it, I spent a little more time talking about a store than I have to say here. But yeah, he's a solid unit. As I said, that 15 speed is really nice. His 15 speed and 11 luck actually gives him really good avoid, and 7 strength is not bad either, and his defense is pretty darn good. And the late thief we're going to be getting in Kath is actually quite weak. There we're looking at Chad a little bit. So the other unit that we're going to be getting is Lena. I actually like Lena quite a bit. She's a level 1 mage, which has all the problems of her just being really weak at this stage in the game. She's quite a bit worse than Lou, mostly because Lou is recruited so early. At this stage, our Lou is like level 13 or something. He can even be promoted at this, or actually get the guiding ring here. But she's basically just the same as Lou, except she has really good magic and just okay speed, and he has really good speed and just okay magic. It's not terrible, and in the end, actually, Lena, I think, is a better unit because she hits so hard, and she will eventually start doubling basically everything. But for the beginning, just the late recruitment, and it does take her a while to get speed. She has this problem of being really frail and having bad speed, so she could potentially get doubled, and she doesn't take hits well, and that's not a great combination to have. Any kind of mercenaries or anything will absolutely disintegrate her. But she does build support with Roy really fast. I said I wouldn't mention support, but they build really, really quickly, so there are some bosses later, for example, Gel, which is sort of a famously annoying boss that Lena actually can destroy, especially with Roy support, because she'll really get hit and hit like an absolute truck. So yeah, I think stages are great in this game. Certainly if Lou died, I think Lena's a great option. You may even want a second sage in the late game with Air Caliber, or honestly without, because her magic's so good. She will absolutely disintegrate Wyvern Lords and Wyverns and stuff. So I do think that Lena is a nice addition to your team, although I do think that Lou is a much better unit. And then here I'm just going to be moving Lena one to the left. As you can see, the archer range is such that the only tile that isn't hit is the one to the left. So just move her over there so that she doesn't just get murdered by this archer, because that would be bad. You are going to need to move her again in a minute here, but yeah. So yeah, as I said, the chapter's pretty straightforward. I believe I'm going to be skipping to a little bit. There is a horse slayer guy here. This is the one thing that I want to mention. Just be careful because, as I said, this chapter is pretty straightforward. So what I'm going to do here is just have Alan go up and absolutely slaughter the soldier. You're going to probably be wanting to do a lot of this, which is totally fine. Alan's amazing, as is Lance. But just be careful, because if they're too far out in front, or Marcus or Zella or somebody, they can die to that Horse Slayer. Effective damage is really high in this game, so just be aware of that. So we're going to be skipping to just a little bit later on in the chapter. We've dealt with the horse slayer guy and some other guys. At this stage, I believe the reinforcements have shown up. Yep, we're going to be getting some new units. So we'll talk about these three. Now, as far as Fire Emblem is concerned, and getting like a group of units, like for example, Deacon as mercenaries, this is probably up there as the worst group on average of 3 units you get in any Fire Emblem game. All these units are terrible, with the exception sort of OJ, but they're all really unusable. So we'll start with OJ, who's really just a worse Hero Crest recipient than like Rucker and especially Deep. But he can be okay. We're going to be coming to the Western Isles pretty soon here, and training sword units on the Western Isles is pretty easy. But as I said, basically every other Hero Crest user in this game is a lot better than OJ. So just be aware of that. But he can be okay. Hero's a nice class. His speed is quite good. Part of his problem is that he's fairly frail, whereas like a character like Deke isn't. His HP isn't particularly good, and his defense sucks. Base 1 resistance, or 0 resistance, sorry, also isn't very good. Also, his strength isn't very good. I know I'm critiquing him a lot. He can be a decent unit, but he's more of a tempo unit, where in the mid game he can be pretty useful, but in the late game he definitely will fall off, which is sort of the same for Deke and Rucker, but they have a much stronger sort of mid game than OJ has. He does provide you with an Armor Slayer, which is quite helpful, so that's not bad. The second unit here is Barth. Barth is pretty terrible. His stats don't look so bad, and it looks like he can maybe provide you with some decent defense, given that it's 14. But his speed is really bad. And when units get doubled, their defense essentially gets, like, halved, if that makes sense. At least in some capacities. He can offer you, obviously, some bulk, given that high defense. But his skill is such that he'll really struggle to hit. Obviously, Steel Lance is a bad example, because that's terrible. But he only has 68 hit with the Steel Lance, which means even with an Iron Lance, it'll only be, like, 70 or 80 before enemy avoids. So his hit is inconsistent, even though it is pretty strong, and his defense isn't actually that good because his speed is so bad. And then we have the worst character in the whole game, and that's Wendy. Wendy, I think, is hands down the worst character in the game. She's just terrible. Her strength, skill, and speed are all atrocious. She has the same problem with Lena, where her speed is bad, so she'll get doubled. And her defense isn't that good, so she'll take 1,000,000 damage. Also, her hit is atrocious. I just mentioned Barth's hit being terrible, but Wendy's is worse. It's really hard to train her. She doesn't hit hard. 19 health is also terrible. Her growths are okay, so if you train her, she can wind up being an okay general. But really, she's just like a worse version of Bors, honestly, and Bors is pretty terrible. So, highly recommend not training Wendy unless you really want a meme. There's a character later on in this game in Sophia who is also a meme character, but I think is actually fairly reasonable. Wendy is not reasonable under any circumstances. I would highly recommend not training Wendy. She is the ultimate meme character. She might just be the worst character in all of Fire Emblem, if we're being honest. She really has nothing going for her. Okay, so I'm going to be skipping ahead just a little bit here. So I'm just mentioning at this point the chests that are down there. We're going to be doing a nice little technique, I guess you could say, with these thieves. So these thieves are going to be appearing Kath, who, as I said, we're going to want to talk to. We don't recruit her here because we need to talk to her one more time. And then a generic thief. Now, they're going to be opening the door for Lalina. They won't attack Lalina, so don't worry about that. It would be pretty insane if they did. But they are going to open the door for her, which is kind of nice. Very helpful. So don't worry about that. As far as how we're going to be handling the thieves, these chests off to the left, these chests in the middle here, they're going to want to get. So basically what we're going to be doing, and I'm going to cut ahead to the formation I'm going to be using here, is basically open the door, get 3 of the chests, except for the back one, and then basically, like, allow a line of the thieves to get in. I don't know if that really makes sense, but allow the thieves to get at the chest, because they're going to want to move toward the chest if they still have the ability to get toward the final chest there. And then we can basically trap them in that room, talk to Kath as we want to, and steal lockpicks and Kath's vulnerary, which is very useful for us. There's also some mages down here that you can kind of get some experience by attacking the wall. We're going to be using Lou, but you can also use Sue or like a Javelin Cav or something if that's the way you want to do it. Just getting rid of the mages is nice, and it's a good experience. Okay, so here's the setup I was talking about. So as you can see, we've gotten 3 of the chests. Basically, the thieves, they can't get the chest in the back, but they are going to want to go in there and get it, and we've made it so that they have a path to the chest, because otherwise they're going to want to move around or move somewhere else. So this is really useful because, as I said, we're going to be able to talk to Kath and steal. We also have, you can see where Wendy was up there. That's going to be important later for basically stopping all of those reinforcements. And as you can see, as I said before, Lou is getting some nice little chip damage, some nice experience from attacking this mage. But yeah, Wendy's going to be really important at basically stopping all of the reinforcements that are going to be coming from the top left. Any unit can do this. We're just doing it with Wendy because it's funny. But yeah, as you can see, they're now trapped in here. So you can just stand over the chest, talk to Kath, and then steal from them. We're going to be killing that thief as well. That's one of the things. Lockpicks are really easy to come by in this game. They have 30 uses, and you can get a lot of lockpicks here from different thieves throughout the game. They also sell for like 1,000, which can be really helpful later on because you definitely don't need the 50 lockpicks we're going to be getting. But yeah, that can be really helpful. There's going to be some reinforcements from down here. There's also this Kill Lance guy. Be aware of him. He has some chest keys you can steal, I guess, but yeah, just be aware because he hits pretty hard and he can absolutely crit somebody. So, and then as I said, Wendy is going to be keeping those reinforcements busy up there. And you can see exactly what the reinforcements do. Fire Emblem AI is not the smartest thing in the world, so that Archer is going to stand right in front of Wendy, and there's no other 2-range. Or at least they also can't do 2-range because of the mercenary. You can do this, as I said, with any unit. I would not recommend getting chip damage. Obviously, you can attack this Archer with Wendy a little bit if you want some experience or whatever unit you're using. But the enemies up here are pretty strong. There's also going to be some guys with armor slayers that are going to come, so I would probably recommend either investing in killing all these reinforcements with like your calves, or just doing this, because using a half measure here will absolutely result in character deaths. But yeah, Wendy's doing a great job of holding off these reinforcements. As you can see, she can do a little bit of chip damage, but I don't know if that's really recommended. But yeah, you can do this, as I said, with any unit. I don't know why I'm staring at Wendy here, but... Oh yeah, and I just want to touch on this. You can talk to Roy with Lilina, get a free Thunder Tome. I don't really know why Roy has a Thunder Tome. Like, if you don't talk to Lilina, you don't get the Thunder Tome. So I don't really know, like, what he's doing with that tome, but you can get a free tome for Lilina. And Thunder's nice. It's nice to have access to. Okay, so I've skipped a bunch here. As I said, there are reinforcements from the south, an Archer and a Myrmidon. I have gotten these chests with a stall. I want to mention a little bit here, we're going to be getting the Guiding Ring and the Whip. We also get a secret book. I want to mention stat boosters. Most stat boosters are really, really helpful. But I think secret books and goddess icons, which are the skill stat booster and the luck stat booster, I would recommend selling. Basically later on in this game with the silver card, you're going to be able to trade 1-for-1 with robes with those, so +7 health, which is really, really useful. So I would highly recommend selling secret books and goddess icons. And as I said, we did get a secret book here. You can use a goddess icon on Rutger because he does have pretty low luck, and you are going to have to contend with some crit throughout the game. But I would still probably recommend just selling it. If your Rutger dies to a crit, then I don't know, you're unlucky. And you can see the 4 batches of reinforcements that Wendy is currently doing a great job of holding off the north here. As I said, I would highly recommend doing this, or potentially using your calves if you want a little more experience. As far as the boss is concerned, this is the first promoted boss we're going to be fighting in the game. He's pretty tough, but he does not have the spear like the boss outside did. As you can see, Rutger does a pretty good job. Luke can also do a pretty good job here. So I would recommend using one of these two. Obviously, at this point, your calves can use the armor slayers, so you can take that approach. But I'm going to be using Rutger and Lou to fight this boss. So at this point, we've damaged the boss pretty heavily. I'm going to attack him with Lou. Because I actually have hindsight, I can tell you what's going to happen here, which is Lou's going to miss both of these fires. Lou is a really nice boss killer along with Rutger. Rutger's a really nice boss killer if you want to kill bosses really quickly. But Lou's really nice because he does good damage. And he'll be really nice as we go to the... He's going to miss this. Whoa, how did I know that? And he's going to hit the second one. Getting the kill for Rutger's quite nice here. He's going to get a level out of this. My Rutger's only about level 10. It is a little bit sort of annoying to train Rutger before this point because your calves... Oh, 11 actually. Your calves have so much movement, but during the Western Isles, you're going to definitely be able to do that. There's one more thing that I wanted to touch on here, and this will be important for later on in the game, and it's important for here, and that's rescue dropping. So as you can see, what that means is we rescue Lou, and we drop Lou. So Lou doesn't have any movement, but getting him out of sticky situations can be really nice. This is really nice for some Berserker bosses and stuff later on in the game, because you definitely don't want them to attack Lou. You can also do this with healers, so like for example here, Rutger would have gotten hurt, I can heal, and then I can rescue drop Saul out of there. So this is sort of it's a little skill that can be really, really helpful in a lot of different situations. Rescue dropping to get units to places you want them to be is extremely valuable. And this is one of the reasons that sort of calves and flyers and stuff are as good as they are, because they're super good at rescue dropping. So, like, as I said, for example, a healer who's still in 2 range can be rescue drop, or there's the previous chapter where there's the killer axe guy. Rucker can fight a boss, and then you can rescue drop him out. So that's the end of chapter 8. In order to get to the Gaiden chapter here, we are going to want to keep Lilina alive, which is not particularly difficult to do, but just be aware of that. I'll mention on the next chapter we're going to be doing the first Gaiden chapter, so I'll talk about the Gaiden chapter when we get there and sort of how those work and how those work specifically for the end game. But yeah, that was chapter 8. As I said, quite a bit easier than chapter 7. A lot of easy chapters like this in the game. So next time we'll do the Gaiden chapter, and I'll see you then.